Call the meeting to order. Let the record show all board members are present. To have a motion to approve the agenda. Motion's moved and second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Okay, approval of the agenda with any adjustments. Anybody have any questions about the agenda? Do you have a motion to approve the agenda? I thought we did a roll call. Oh, we did. Let the record show all board members are present. Recognitions. Oh, we do not. Delegations. Agenda items, none. Non-agenda items. Hillary Petrie. Got
What?
5 minutes.
Okay. All right. Good evening, Dr. Starcher. Good evening, board. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I kind of wrote everything down because of the 5 minutes. So my name's Hillary Petrie. I'm the former cheer coach at Bradley Elementary. And to preface this, I want to say that cheer's been part of my life for as long as I can remember. And I've been coaching and choreographing school cheer for 10 years now. I'm here today to reference Policy 70A. This policy covers 4 rules in cheerleading, most of which don't seem relevant for the present day. However, the rule of my concern is Rule 7.3. The rule states cheerleaders no pitches, knee drops, or full press extensions are permitted. This is the rule, according to elementary athletics, that I broke. I admit I don't know what a pitch is. I would argue it's a baseball term. There is a such thing in cheer as a toe pitch, but I've never taught one or done one in my entire career. The skill that I did is called a twist cradle or a pop twist cradle. And the board and the elementary athletics called it a pitch. My issue with this is that every sport has specific terminology that it's crucial to use in order for a policy to be effective and upheld. Basically, this would be the equivalent of saying no overhand serves at a football game. It doesn't make any sense. And so, therefore, when I was told that my cradle was illegal, I pled my case and said, it's not in the rules. And to which they told me that they were calling it a pitch. And I said, I know in cheer you have to go by the book. Trust me, they will throw you out for just about anything. I was confident that I had proof of all the universal terminology as I contacted people from SSAC, the National Federation, went through all the necessary steps to kind of research just to confirm terminology, not really rules. And I was hoping that my girls could compete or perform their routine as is. But I was told, unfortunately, it still must change. This occurred between Friday and Monday. Friday was the first wind of the situation, and Monday was the final decision. But it was also our 5th grade night. I didn't have time to practice a change before 5th grade night, and I didn't feel comfortable just telling them to change something they've never practiced because one goes to squish, one goes to cradle. Now somebody really is hurt. And so, therefore, I didn't even feel comfortable later changing something because evidently, to my knowledge, the rules aren't the rules I think they are. They don't match up to what my knowledge tells me. So I went through, all the necessary steps, trying to talk to the board and trying to talk to Kendra Arvon. And it just kind of seemed the terminology was made up. Nobody really knew where it came from, and they didn't really have a lot of background knowledge. And so it was kind of hard to relay my message because they didn't understand my terminology. I didn't want to disappoint the girls by telling them they couldn't perform. And so I told them, I was like, to the principal, I said, you're going to have to tell them that. And I won't tell them that. I mean, my baby's in 5th grade. And so I stepped down. I also felt greatly disrespected with kind of the unwillingness for me to be able to educate them. If you're telling me, you don't know the terminology, and I'm looking at you and I'm saying, hey, we can work on this together and point you to the correct direction, I just felt like it should have been maybe listened to. I was told that next year there would probably be a change. However, that didn't remedy the current situation for my girls that worked hard to perform skills safely, effectively, with correct technique and efficiency. I stand by the fact that I did not break any rules. Nowhere except the Raleigh County policy can I find a cradle being referred to as a pitch. I could walk into any gym in any state, and I'm confident if I told the athletes to do a twist cradle or a straight down cradle, they would know exactly what I meant. However, if I walked in and said, hey, do a pitch, I think chaos would assume because they would not know what I'm talking about. Furthermore, I did a cradle 2 years ago with my elementary team, and a coach told me she did the exact skill I was in trouble for last year. I believe they got targeted, my team, because they're extremely talented and they go above and beyond and work hard, and I don't think there's any question of their talent. I would like the board to take into consideration that policies are looked at more in depth before putting into effect that appropriate terminology is used. I do not think it would have hurt to have an actual consultation with real cheerleaders and experts in the field in order to decide what should and shouldn't be allowed. I was told I could do a much harder skill, which is a brace kick single, as long as they were braced and they considered that safe. That's a level 3 skill, sometimes a level 4 skill, depending on what you look. What I was performing was a level 2 skill. And I think that just goes to show they weren't really sure on what should and shouldn't be allowed or safe. If the board is going to make up their own terminology for a policy and coin their own phrases, I believe it should come with some form of description or glossary of terms if they're not going to use the universal terminology. And final, I believe that my girls were being punished technically for following the rules, and that the Board of Education and American Principals Association was not willing to admit their mistake and allow my cheerleaders to finish out their season doing the routine the way they have learned it. And it's just embedded in my personality to kind of stand up for what I feel like is right and where I feel like injustices have happened. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I see we have someone else speaking about the cheerleading as well. Just for the record, so you will know, since it's a non-agenda item, we will not be able to comment on it tonight.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Vestal.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Vestal. Hold on, I'm going to start my stopwatch. So, my name is Elizabeth Vestal, like I said, and I'm a product of West Virginia cheerleading. I was 10 of 15 from Logan High School when I graduated, and of those 10 that I just mentioned, they went on to, as I did, to receive cheerleading scholarships to go and further our education. These offers for the scholarships were to WVU, Fairmont State, Kent State, University of Kentucky, which, if you know anything about cheerleading, University of Kentucky holds the most national cheerleading championships in the country, and they are a class act, do everything flawlessly. They are the standard for college cheerleading. And I know that we are talking about elementary, but it starts at this young age for children to fall in love with sports. But the benefit of being a cheerleader with the school board, or with the school and the Board of Education, is they have to maintain a certain GPA in order to be able to be involved in sports. A lot of cheerleaders are now going to all-star gyms, and I know this because I owned a all-star cheerleading gym that had 6 competitive cheerleading teams all the way up to a level 5, as she mentioned. And the stunt that is being called in as a pitch is completely incorrect, because I watched, and let me just also preface, I do not have a child on this cheerleading team. My children attend Shady Spring Elementary. They are in 1st grade, and my oldest son here is in the 4th grade. And I teach my children, if something is wrong and you know that you can help or to inform to make better decisions, you stand up and you speak for what is correct and what is right and what is fair. And so when I saw this on Facebook this morning, it was brought to my attention this morning through Facebook, and I rewatched this routine over and over. I even went as far to put it on my big flat screen TV so I could focus in and see exactly at what part did this cheerleading team break one of the 4 rules that are given. And the 4 rules, honestly, I'm not trying to be disrespectful in any way or any means, but being an all-star cheerleading coach, and I've also been a competitive judge for it's called UCA, Universal Cheerleading Association, and I was a part of the Universal Cheerleading Association for close to 15 years. But I started cheering at the age of 4. My grade school cheerleading coach was named the WVSSAC Cheerleading Coach of the Year not too long ago. Her name is Tina Beck. My high school cheerleading coach was also a WVSSAC Coach of the Year, who also served on the WVSSA board along with Tina Beck, and her name is Michelle Akers. So my training and my foundation of cheerleading it came from 2 class acts of cheerleading. And when I went over the rules, and it says no pitch or knee drops or full press extensions permitted. The full press extensions permitted, that makes sense. That's going from a shoulder, having the flyer at a shoulder height and not going above the head. That's clear and cut. Now, a pitch or knee drop, the correct terminology is actually a toe pitch or leg pitch. And that is when someone, if my son, am I allowed to use my son just so he can show? Okay, stand up, please, babe. A toe pitch is when an athlete, give me your foot, an athlete holds from the front and throws them up in the air. And a lot of kids, you've probably seen a lot of kids where they can do a backflip and somebody will have their foot and throw them up in the air and do a flip. That is actually what a pitch or off of a knee drop would be, is assisting by throwing from a leg. If the leg is out straight, you hold it on the side and you throw them up in the stunt. Now, with the Bradley cheerleaders, what I saw was a back spot in the correct position, the main base also in the correct position, holding as a main base should, and the back spot pushing up, which is completely legal. That is how you get into a stunt, especially into a pyramid. And so after reviewing the video and going over all the rules, I just felt like I had to speak up because I do have experience in this. I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but it was my entire childhood, and I did win several championships, several state titles, and even in the college arena. So thank you for your time. I hope that we can rectify the rules. And I have 2 boys. I do not even have a daughter that would be cheering. But it is crucial that we make cheerleading a priority for our students so that we don't lose them to all-star gyms where their academics, they're not checked. So thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you. Okay, communication reports. Dr. Hutchins. Oh, I'm sorry. We missed one. I apologize. Candace Mooney. Sorry, Candace.
That's okay. Good evening. My name is Candace Mooney. The reason for attending this meeting is due to a request for a bus route extension to include Plumley Mountain Road was denied, including 2 other families that emailed applications in also. The reason for my request is due to a qualifying life event, meaning a significant change in our life that makes us eligible for an extended bus route. My husband and I have been compliant with the current bus stop for several years, which we have to drive 1 mile to, share with multiple families, and from time to time the Division of Highways parking their equipment there, which they have the right of way to do so. My husband's shift is changing to 12-hour days the 21st of October, making it impossible to get our son to the bus stop. And I'm not able to either because I have to be at work at 5:30, no exceptions. I started this process August 23rd, calling the transportation office and leaving Tim Covey a message with my name, number, and the reason for my call. I never received a return phone call. I called back and spoke with Tim Covey August 26th. He emailed me the extended bus route application. However, he did not inform me that I would receive a response in the mail. I specifically asked to be present when the route was to be assessed. However, again, was never contacted. And I put on my application that I wanted to be contacted when they reassessed the route. I could have made arrangements and compliant with whatever was convenient for the transportation department if I had just been contacted. This is not an unreasonable request. Who knows if the route was even assessed after the fact my application was turned in. I would like to know the date it was assessed. If it's not documented, it never happened. I called and left Tim Covey another message around September 18th, and surprised he never returned my phone call. The only person to return my phone call was Doug Bird, who is Tim Covey's supervisor, presenting to be very professional and understanding. He informed me that he was not aware of my situation and that an extended bus route had not been approved. I spoke with Mr. Redden September 23rd, who was the acting director of transportation at the time, and informed him the reason for my request. This was his response. Well, you're not the only kids that aren't picked up at your house in Raleigh County. If we pick your child up, we'll have to pick up kids all the way down in Abraham. This was one of his suggestions. I know it's inconvenient, but drop your son off with someone for an hour so he can catch the bus. I would like to inform the board that there is no one else. I do not just drop my son off with anybody. As far as picking kids up in Abraham, this has nothing to do with that. I'm not asking for special treatment. Again, this is my request and 2 other families to extend the route on Plumley Mountain Road only. There are 6 children that can be picked up in less than 2 miles. I timed it. It takes approximately 5 minutes one way. This is a main road that is maintained with a turnaround spot. I understand that there are time restraints, which from my understanding, the current bus meets another bus at the top of the hill at 6:20. It would take no more than 15 minutes to extend the route, and the buses could still meet at the top of the hill by 6:35 or 6:40 and still get to school on time. I grew up on Plumley Mountain Road, where the bus picked up every kid on every road and down all the side roads. We still made it to school on time. I do not understand the denial for mine and 2 other families' request. When I questioned Tim Covey why the bus goes down a side road 0.8 miles, which is pretty much down a holler for one kid, and that is Flatwoods Road, he stated that the road has been on route for years. Well, so had Plumley Mountain Road. Transportation stopped picking kids up on that route because that generation has graduated. There is a whole new generation and more kids to be picked up on Plumley Mountain Road than there ever has been before. Which I'm reminding you again that it's a main road, not a side road. Our family drives 1 mile to the bus stop, and the Year Ago family drives approximately 2 miles. We have a wonderful bus driver that is willing to pick these kids up, but the head of transportation refuses to extend the route. I will not be made to feel that this is an unreasonable request or that I'm trying to request something that is more convenient for me. Again, the reason for this request is due to a life-changing event. Isn't it transportation's job to pick our kids up and not what's more convenient for them? I don't get to pick and choose what I do at work. Transportation is going to say we provide our services to you, but you have to drive 1 to 2 miles to take advantage of the services provided. If I called a cab to come pick me up and they said I would have to drive 2 miles before I render my services, doesn't that sound absurd? We are hardworking parents. What are we to do? We have no one else to transport our son. If you could provide the facts so that I could understand why this request was denied, I would accept it. Respectfully, I'm not just going to take someone's word for it, and I will not be pushed aside, wishfully hoping that I'll go away. Now, the formal letter that I received, this is all that was sent to me in the mail. I am writing to inform you that at this time, we are not extending any bus routes. If you have any questions, please call the transportation office. And that was it. So thank you for your time. I do have a letter to speak on behalf of my neighbor, and her name is Lori Bennett. I know them personally. She's the grandmother of 3 boys. Their mother was 38, and she passed away in April. Their father works out of town Monday through Friday, so all the responsibility falls on the grandmother. Her husband has had 2 strokes. He is not able to drive, and she has to work to provide. So this is Lori Bennett's letter. To whom it may concern, I would like to protest the denial of getting our bus to come to Bob Plumley Road in Shady Spring, West Virginia. My grandkids live almost 2 miles from the bus stop, and when it gets cold or if it is raining, we have no way to get them to the bus outside of their four-wheelers or dirt bikes, which is a dangerous situation in itself. Their mother passed away April 2024, and I, their grandmother, work and cannot be home to pick them up when school is over. They will be expected to walk almost 2 miles in cold rain, and I just will not tolerate that. I will be keeping my kids home from school on days I have no way to either get them there or for sure cannot pick them up on the cold or rainy days. I have 2 in Shady Spring Middle School and 1 in Daniels Elementary. One's 13, the other is 11, and the little one is 6. Last school year, 2023-24, they missed a lot of school due to not having any way to get to the bus stop. This is ridiculous and uncalled for. There are several children needing this bus to come on down to Bob Plumley Road. If something isn't done about this once again, I will not be sending my kids to school on days we cannot meet bus 2 miles down the road. Thank you, Lori Bennett.
Thank you. Board reports, Dr. Hutchins.
I'm on. I attended Convention Center Board along with Mr. Dillon, and I think we're both happy to announce that they're going to be buying a new scoreboard, which is, and it's not going to cost us anything. So there are some very generous people that donated the money, and it will feature Woodrow Wilson High School and WD Tech on it. So that was a good thing. The other thing they talked about was, of course, finances and business and so forth, but that was the exciting thing to me.
Ms. Smith. Ms. Hambrick. Mr. Snuffer.
I don't have anything except the new fence at Fairdale. Maintenance has put that in. It looks really nice. Much appreciated that got in. It's a big improvement for down there, and I really appreciate that. Also, I was involved in the Homecoming for Liberty to the point of making the junior float in my garage. So I got hooked in on that a little bit, and the kids really worked hard. And I was talking to Mr. Dunn before. He said it was a good week, but he was tired. And I think everybody was like that. But I know Woodrow had theirs and Liberty had theirs. But I think they both went off really well, and it was a really nice thing to see the kids involved and get to celebrate their homecomings. And that's all.
I don't have anything, Dr. Starcher.
I don't have much other than I did get to attend Liberty's homecoming game Friday night, so that was fun. The girls, the homecoming court, they all look very nice, and the boys as well. I don't want to leave them out, but it was a good evening, good event. Several of us participated in Chili Night this past Saturday, so we gave out a lot of books, and our cooks placed third in the competition in our category. So I want to recognize the cooks and thank them for coming out. But it was a good night. We gave out a lot of books, talked to a lot of people. And then we at the central office have started our data reviews, our quarterly data reviews with our schools. So over the last 2 days, we've been to 10 schools. Those reviews are going very well. And we started with elementary. Next week, we'll switch over to secondary. But it's been a good week, and that's all I have. Thank you.
We have no unfinished business. Policies and procedures. These following policies are to be placed on 30-day comment period. Oh, I keep missing stuff. I didn't wake up today. Comprehensive support and improvement, additional target schools. Mr. Sexton. Didn't mean to forget about you.
President Ford, Superintendent Starcher, board members. What I have for you tonight is an update to our 2 schools that were identified as CSI ATS schools in 2022. We are in our 3rd year participation, and if you recall, it is a 3-year project. And so upon the completion of this school year, the State Department will be going through a procedure to then reassess our current schools, as well as to identify any other schools across the state that might need targeted assistance as well. And so across these 2 years so far, what you're seeing here, I've given you a sheet for 2 different schools, Marsh Fork Elementary and Mabscott Elementary. And beginning on the front side, and I'm referring to the front side as the one with the chart with the color on it. On that chart for Marsh Fork Elementary, you'll see some math performance between the last 2 years of performance, excluding this year, of course, for both reading and mathematics. And you can see there that the growth has not reached a level that we're satisfied with just yet, but we are working with that school to make sure that we continue to make progress in this particular subgroup. And what you're seeing are the scores relative to students with disabilities. You're not seeing the all score for the entire building because, as again you recall, the CSI ATS schools were identified because the subgroup of special education was not performing at an acceptable level. And so if you will look down in the graphic, the color graphic, you'll see there, though, that the school is making growth towards their targeted, toward their annual goals. And so those check marks do mean that they did meet their annual goals for the previous year. And to recap what Ms. Lowry then shared with you last board meeting, if you recall that the more full a box is with the color, it means that they're about to transcend into the next area. So for Marsh Fork Elementary, you'll see those areas of English and mathematics. If for English, they've already transcended to the yellow in one area for one subgroup, and then the economically disadvantaged is just about to transcend into the next area as well. Same thing for mathematics. Both of those groups are just about to transcend into the next level of performance. On the back side of that page, you'll see the goals that were set between Marsh Fork Elementary and the Department of Education. They have come and done an on-site audit twice, and what you'll see there is each goal was represented by the gray stripe, and then there are 2 visits. And the date of 10/12/23 was the initial visit, in which you'll see the comments for that visit and what they requested be put in place to make corrections. And then the follow-up visit on 3/19/24, then the comments of that visit. Just to the left of both of those dates, you'll see the letter S, means satisfactory. They're making progress. And so as you look down through all of those goals, you'll see that in all areas that Marsh Fork Elementary is making progress, sufficient progress on all of their goals. And specifically, if you'll notice, there were 2 goals that initially were insufficient. They've made correction and moved towards sufficiency. Any questions about Marsh Fork Elementary before I move on?
Yeah, I guess I have one, Alan.
Okay.
I see your data where it says we're making progress and stuff, but you actually dropped over 2 points at in math at Marsh Fork. How do you progress when you're going backwards?
In looking at, so again, this is just a special education subgroup, and looking at that subgroup, the group that had a higher percentage of performance the previous year were 5th graders, moved on to 6th grade,
Okay.
and new students were identified coming in through 3rd grade. It's typical that a lot of students with disabilities are not identified until they are closer to 2nd or 3rd grade, and so at that point, it typically will pull your score down somewhat.
Okay,
Especially
so
when you have a higher achieving group that leaves the school.
So the higher achievers left said more in there. Okay. I didn't say. Is there a number? What's the number of kids or children involved in that?
Students with disabilities, just about 20.
20. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions about Marsh Fork? Okay, moving on to Mabscott, and starting on the front with the graphic, you'll see that that Mabscott Elementary has made significant growth for the students with disabilities across the 2-year period. In mathematics growing and reading growing as well. And you can see in the graphic as well that they've made their targets on an annual basis, moving all of their areas out of the red into yellow, with the exception of children with disabilities. Those are still growing. They did meet their growth performance goals, but still not meeting expectations. But what I would like to point out specifically, and very impressive for their math and their reading scores, when you look at the total, if I were displaying the typical or average performance for the state. They've exceeded performance in both areas as juxtaposed against all students with disabilities across the state of West Virginia. On the back side, again, there are their goals using the same format. You can see that they have made progress on all of their goals. They do not have any insufficient progress on either the initial visit or the follow-up visit. We do have one additional visit coming for this school year, which will close out. We do believe that Mapscott is on a trajectory that they will no longer be identified as a CSI ATS school upon the next identification. Any questions about Mapscott? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, no unfinished business. Policies and procedures to be placed on 30-day comment. Approve repeal and replacement of policy D.3.1 attendance policy.
Board members, if you look at D.3.1, we actually did not receive a formal comment from the public, but in our office, based on guidance recently received from the State Department of Education, we are recommending a slight change to section 6.6. I think it's on page 6 or 7, but 6.6. Language has been added, the phrase for a minimum of 3 or more consecutive school days. So if you recall, last year we started using the A1 code based upon guidance given from the department. Now the department is going to tighten that up a little bit. Shouldn't be just absences, day-to-day absences. That's what we're thinking that the department is expecting. They're going to be monitoring the use of A1. So what we're recommending is that we add that language. So if a student has an excuse that's 3 or more days in length, then the student could qualify for use of the A1 code. But for a day-to-day absence with an excuse, we would not, we would no longer use the A1 code. So that is a recommendation we're making, our office is making, to add to this policy. Again, based on recent communication from the Department of Ed, we think that will be best for our schools. The other change, it's actually 3 pages from the back. This is really just a clarification. It's item section 2A. Currently, it's the second sentence there in 2A. A student may be granted an exception during his or her senior year. That's what it currently says. What we've added is up to a half day. That is our practice. That has been our practice, but we want to just make sure we're clear in our policy that an exception for an educational reason is for up to a half a day. Not, you can't have 5 periods excused. It would be up to a half a day. Again, that is our current practice. We just want to tighten up our language. With those revisions to policy, I would recommend it be approved with those.
Okay, y'all have heard a recommendation. Have a motion.
I move that we approve D.3.1 attendance policy with the noted changes.
There's motions moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Approve revisions of policy D.3.6, education of homeless children and youth.
President Ford, we did not receive any comments on this policy, so we would recommend it be approved as presented.
I move we approve D.3.6, education of homeless children and youth, as was presented.
Motion's moved and second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Approve revisions of policy E.17, homeschool.
Again, President Ford, we received no comments, so we would recommend it be approved as presented.
I move we approve E.17, homeschooled as was presented.
Is there a second? Motion moved and second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Consent items. A, B, C, D, and E. Can we vote on those as a package, or do you want to pull any of them out?
I'm fine. I move we approve the consent items as were submitted to us.
There's a second. Motion moved and second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. New business. Consider approval of the reschedule the December 24th board meeting to December 17th.
I move we reschedule our regular board meeting to December 17th from the 24th, even though I was looking forward to some Christmas Eve stuff for us, you know, parties. Yeah, I thought we maybe would have that. Thought Miss Hamrick would bring us some food or something, but we'll go with that.
Motion moved and second. All those in favor say aye. Motion carries. Consider approval of the community-based work program for 2024 and 2025 for New River Community Technical College and National Mine Health and Safety Academy. Okay. For a second.
Second.
Motion moved and second. Excuse me. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. C, consider approval of the service provider for transportation efficiency study.
President Ford, we have conducted interviews of the vendors who applied to conduct the transportation efficiency study. Based on those interviews and review of the submissions, we recommend, or I recommend Transpar Group.
What was the name of again?
Transpar, TRANSPAR Group.
Okay.
Their main office is located in South Carolina, and it has representatives in Morgantown.
I move we approve the recommended provider for transportation efficiency study as was presented by the superintendent.
Motion moved and second. All those in favor say aye. Okay, D, consider approval of the recommendations, recommended bid for Park Middle School gymnasium demolition.
If it is acceptable to the board, Mr. Dillon is here and can speak about that project at this time.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Starcher, President Ford, and board members. I think it's on your agenda. It's line item D, consider approval of the recommended bid for Park Middle School gymnasium demolition. That will be performed by Reclaim Company. The project will be $240,380, and that will consist of the demolition of the current park gymnasium in the building connector demolition. So this job is broken up, and I'll talk more specifically about that in letter E. But letter D that's before you tonight will be the demolition of the current gym and the connector piece.
I move we approve the vendor Reclaim Corporation for a bid of $240,380 for the demolition of the park gym.
Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Consider approval of the Park Middle School Phase 2 construction project.
Thank you, President Ford. this is letter E under new business. This job was awarded to Radford and Radford. The cost on this will be $2.24 million, so $2,240,000. This consists of a lot of stuff here. This project will remove all storm lines under the existing gymnasium, install a retaining wall and new storm drainage lines, remove exterior ramps, stairs, and installing new accessible stairs and ramps, creating additional parking and bus access road. This will alleviate some traffic congestion on the front of the building. Enclosure of the breezeway between the existing buildings at the lower level. If you're familiar with current Park Middle School, back behind, students now have to exit the main building to go to another classroom and or the band room. So this would enclose this project would enclose that. Enclosure of the breezeway between the existing buildings at the lower level, removing the existing storm drains that are not functional, installing new storm drainage around the existing breezeway. Drainage at the current breezeway is a tremendous problem with rain. We know we have a drainage problem. That's why we're building a new gym. But it's particularly bad in that situation or in that spot right there. And also this project will encompass building a corridor to separate the main level classroom from the breezeway and access to the lower level music classroom. There is also a new stair to access the corridor to the existing music classroom. After phase 2 is complete, which this is what we're calling this phase 2, students will be able to travel from the main building to and from the music room and other areas of the building without going outside, of course out in the weather. And obviously this is growing to be a safety concern. That's another topic. But you know, this eliminates students walking from one building outside to another building. They will be underneath one roof. I do not have a targeted date. Mr. Daniel, would you possibly have a date to that? Probably not. Mr. Wisenhunt? No. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Yes, ma'am. It's always been our understanding that this will take place during this school year. We wouldn't wait until school's out. Good question. But it would take place during the school year. Yes, ma'am.
Eric, do you guys have schematics or drawings of any of this stuff?
I do, and I apologize. I should have made copies for everyone. I do. I can provide that to you.
Can
Yes,
you
sir.
provide that maybe next meeting?
Yes, sir.
I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Snuffer, I can send you each an email. I have it electronically.
Okay, that'd be fine.
So I can do that once we adjourn this evening.
That'd
And
be
you can
fine.
have it.
You'll clearly see the demo piece and then the new quote-unquote floor plan.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Does that demo include what I call the, I don't know, highway to whatever you want, that stairway that comes off that back and goes down so deep and comes into the old gym? You know what I'm talking about on the back of the school, that real steep concrete stairwell there? Would that be replaced?
To my understanding, yes.
That'd be moved out?
Yeah, I really don't know that. If I'm thinking about the same spot you are, that we would have a need for that. But that would be demoed. Yes.
That's what I would hope it'd be moved out of there.
Yes.
So, where the old gym was, what is our plan for that space once we get a retaining wall? You know, the floor plan. What are we planning on using that space for?
It'll increase parking.
Parking. That's what I was wondering.
That will help with you know, the parent drop off or
Right.
pick up in the afternoon to get some of that off the front of the building.
Okay, good deal. Okay, I move that we approve. I hate to do this one, but
I mean,
Radford and Radford for the bid on the phase 2 of the project.
For a second. May I ask a question first before we vote?
Yes, sir.
I'm assuming you all looked at the bids. I mean, there's such a variance between first and second bidder, almost $2 million. Are they doing the same thing?
For Dan Hill Construction?
Yeah.
It was my understanding with Dan Hill Construction that was all encompassing. Mr.
Oh.
Mr. Wisenhunt, I don't know if you can speak to that. So that would be the demo and the phase 2 job itself.
Okay.
So that would be some added cost. But even if you do the math there, you're still talking about $1 million difference. Yes, sir.
Is that all?
A little bit more.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, consideration of personnel. Approve superintendent's recommendations for personnel for 24-25 year.
Good evening, everyone. We have a few corrections tonight. Following the page numbers at the bottom on page 2, Central Office, Section B, remove the TBD school nurse. Page 3, under the top section, after school tutors, we have a correction. Alicia Adams should reflect Hollywood Elementary. Under secondary teachers, section A, remove Tamber Patton resignation. And under substitute teachers, section A, remove Tamber Patton from recommended for appointment. And page 7. At the bottom under secretaries, correct Cynthia Bragg should read Cynthia Berry. Thank you.
Your recommendation?
My recommendation is as presented with the corrections noted by Ms. Samanko.
Y'all heard the recommendation of the superintendent. Have a motion.
I move we approve the superintendent's recommendations with the corrections as were noted.
Motion's moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Approve administrative leave of a teacher. Got a name?
Yes, sir. Teacher's name is Mary Barbera.
I approve the superintendent's recommendation for Mary Barbera for, I guess, extended leave. Is that
Paid
correct?
administrative leave.
Administrative leave. Thank you.
Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nope. Approve administrative leave for of an aide.
The aide's name is Deborah Plumley.
Do I have a motion to approve the leave of Deborah Plumley?
I move we approve the extension of administrative leave for Deborah Plumley.
Do I have a second? Okay, I'll second it. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Approve the administrative leave of an aide.
Second aide, yes. Lisa Lilly.
I move we approve the extension of administrative leave for Lisa Lilly as was stated by the superintendent.
Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Approve the suspension of a coach.
Coach's name is Leon Roden.
I move we approve the suspension of Leon Roden, is that his last name?
Yes,
Um,
Roden.
As was issued by the superintendent.
Is there a second? Got 2 seconds. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're going to have a brief intermission, and our LSSI meeting will start at 5:30. Thank you.
Check, check.
Let me see.
Check, 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 check.
Jimmy. Did we have it turned down any? Check.
Check, check, check. Check.
Meeting's now re-adjourned. For LSIC meeting, thank you all for coming. We're looking forward to hearing from you. The first on our agenda is Coal City Elementary School. Introduce your team.
Okay. This is Miss Tony. She's a second grade teacher at Coal City. Amber Wilson is a fourth grade teacher. Jessica Green is a third grade teacher and also our volleyball coach. And then we have Brooke Blankenship, who is a parent, and Justin Scarafino, who is also a parent and our assistant basketball coach. All right, I'm going to start with our performance measures from last year. Our math was a 39.32% overall for the school. Last year it was a 42.22%, so we had a raise there. For reading, we started in 2023 with a 29.06, and last year we went up to 38.51. And for science, we were at 15.39 and went up to 24.49, so we saw growth in all three areas. So I asked my staff at the beginning of the year what changed, what happened that our scores went up, and they gave me 4 things that they thought were the reasons for why our scores improved. One was the use of data notebooks with all of our students. So our students every day have to fill out their behavior, their attendance, and then they have to write down their goals and keep up with their progress in iReady in their data notebooks. The second thing was I required all of my staff to meet with their students individually before each diagnostic for iReady and set a goal with those students of where they wanted to see them at the next benchmark. They also set a classroom goal and had incentives for the students for their individual goals and their classroom goals. They also said they were held accountable. We had PLC meetings quite often. I believe they were every 6 weeks, where they had to bring in their data notebooks. We went through the data. We looked at their iReady scores, looked at their standards and what we need to keep going over. And we also required, after December, I required all teachers to have centers and groups rotating through their classrooms. So our major concern for 24-25 is the new curriculum for math. As a new principal and what we just saw with our math scores, I know that as a new teacher and then with the addition of a new curriculum, sometimes it takes a little bit to get used to that curriculum. So we're a little worried just with the first year and what that might look like. But we have our academic coach, Miss Bonds. She's been pushing into the classrooms, helping teachers get acquainted with the new series, see if there's any needs, and just checking in on the teachers. We also have a large amount of students coming back from private, homeschool, and virtual. So we have our title groups. Our title teachers are already looking for those students in the areas of needs and who they need to pull out for those groups. What we could use your assistance on is our curriculum. A lot of teachers have said that they love the math mats that were ordered this year, and they have started using them in the rooms. Yesterday they shared with me that another school was using them in the hallway, so they want to integrate and start using those in the hallway for students as they transition from one place to the next. But they really would like the ELA mats as well for the classrooms. And then a way to store the mats. Everything that we've seen, they roll the mats up, and I'm just afraid over time, those mats were very expensive to purchase. But I'm afraid after rolling them up after every use that it's going to put a lot of wear and tear on them very quickly. So we're looking at ways that we could hang them in the classroom so when a student needs them, they can just go take them down and use them quickly and then store them quickly. For staff development, my teachers requested that they'd like to be in the building more together at the beginning of the year to get things done, and they liked being able to pick the trainings that they felt like they needed more based on their needs in the classroom. Personnel, we have a lot of students who regularly need to check in with the nurse, so they asked about a full-time nurse. And for our facilities, all of our doors in our interior doors were ruined with the COVID spray. So they have a nice bleached stain around all the doorknobs. We would either like to paint them or replace them, which I know will be really expensive. But our building also is in desperate need of paint in the entryway and the hallways. Really, it all needs it, but those are just the areas that if we could get that done, that would be great for at least this year, or next year, sorry. They also requested shade on the playground. Currently, there's not enough shade for all the students. We have one canopy, but they requested either another canopy or a shade tree because when they're out there, the sun does hit all parts of the playground, and so all the students are trying to huddle under that one canopy for the shade. Our school's biggest accomplishment for the year we felt was our test scores. Our staff and students did a spectacular job of working really hard to get our scores up to reach improvement. We still have a long ways to go, but we're getting there. And we also felt like we have a more positive climate with staff creating an environment where everyone feels valued and motivated. I'd also like to take this time to thank all of you for addressing our concerns and our needs last year for the pre-K pavement, the new furniture in the office, the flooring in the office, the new roof. The parking lot has been repainted, and the addition of the new road for our parent drop-off and pickup. It's made the traffic flow in our parking lot so much better. We don't have a backup into the road, and we don't have traffic trying to go out two different ways, causing congestion and a lot of potential wrecks that could have happened from last year. So we thank you guys for all of those things.
Yeah, I jumped ahead. Do you mind introducing your team?
Okay, so we have a number of central office staff with us this evening. I'm going to stand so I can see everyone. I'll start here with Ms. Simonko. Ms. Simonko is our Director of Human Resources. And then we have Kim Lacey, Director of Attendance, and Mary McClung, Director of Federal Programs. They're at that first table. Then behind them, we have Penny Lowry, Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction, Michelle Blankenship, Director of Elementary and Early Childhood Education, Teresa Lewis, Director of Pupil Services, and Angie Foster, Director of School Health. The back table, we have Gary Daniel. He's our Director of Facilities and Maintenance. He was very involved in those facility upgrades and the road. Michael Wisnant, he's our Director of Purchasing. Tamber Hodges, Director of Secondary Ed. Eric Dillon is at the center table. I'm going to come back. Alan Sexton, he's in the back, the very back. He's our Director of Special Programs. And then Charles Fuller, Director of Counseling, Assessment, Homebound. And over here in the corner, we have Greg Bakejian. He's our Director of Transportation. Rachel Pauley, here at the desk. She's our Director of Technology. Then we have two guys very instrumental to our technology department, BJ Hazelwood and Jimmy Petrie. Very thankful to have them here. And then one last person, and that's Carla Daniel. If you call my office, you're going to talk to Carla. She's here in the center table with the blue jacket. She keeps the office running. So she's the executive secretary. She does a phenomenal job. So that's all of our staff. And at this point, I assume the board might have comments or have questions. So thank you.
Now you know.
Okay.
So you can see by the name tags who the board members are. Does any board member have any questions or comments?
I just wanted to compliment Ms. Starcher there. I've got 13 grandkids. If you had them all out there, I couldn't name them all. I'd screw it up. I'd screw it up. I wouldn't get the names right. So that's impressive right there for sure. The only thing I did, I guess it's a pet peeve of mine, but the one thing I wish you'd repeat again is one of the problems you have is a major concern about all the children returning from private school, homeschool, and virtual. Do you know how many do you have? Do you know any, just a thing out there? Yeah. And I'm not picking on these kids. Don't take me wrong at all. Not at all. That is not their fault. But that's just a situation that we as public schools have to deal with. And my experience has been most of the children are not on pace from what they left, and so it puts another burden on us as public schools to do it. And I guess the other question I had, and then I kind of answered my question. You don't have New River in your building anymore. New River Health, it's moved to the middle school, right, or high school? Where's? Oh, still there? The clinic's still there? So you said you need a nurse. I didn't understand why you couldn't use the clinic.
We are. I think that where they're there on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesdays and Thursdays sometimes is a little hectic.
Okay.
The amount of diabetes we have and all the things going on that sometimes we feel like we're pulling her whenever she's supposed to be in situations. It feels like she's constantly running back.
Okay. And the last comment I would have is that your test scores look excellent. They're going in the right direction. Just keep it up. I know it's always hard to keep going that way, and I would hope that the new math curriculum wouldn't bring you back, but go forward. We didn't buy it to slow you down or make it harder for you. We made it to improve math scores countywide. So hopefully we can get you on board and get you going forward with that. But thank you for your presentation.
Angie's like,
Ms. Smith, you got any? Dr. Hutchins?
I was not there that day. We were in meetings, but from my understanding from my staff, no one came into the building to ask where it was supposed to be, so they just put it where they thought. It's not even inside the preschool Kingston. Sorry. We talked about moving the fence. I mean, if we could move the fence, we could definitely use it, but right now it's outside the fenced-in area, so it's within the big fenced-in area, but the preschool is a separate fenced-in area. So
Any other questions, comments? Do you have any?
I'll just say both Mr. Dillon and Mr. Daniel are here, so they will look at that paved area that's being identified and see what we can do there. If it's a fence or another paved area, we'll see what the solution is. And then I did have the opportunity to meet with Miss Jordan and some of our staff yesterday. And as I've said, she's one of the few, Coal City is one of the few schools that saw growth across all three subject areas. And yes, I'll echo what Ms. Jordan said. There's still a lot of room to go, but you're going in the right direction. And I believe we always have to celebrate growth, and we just have to stay steady and continue to grow. So I appreciate your work, and we'll continue to go in the right direction. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
thank you.
Have a great night at basketball, volleyball. You're welcome.
didn't get this one in there because we had just finished it today. You've got the whole
So as we get started, Mr. Ford has asked that I introduce the board and all of our staff in the back. Can you hear me back there? Michelle? Ms. Blankenship, can you hear me? Okay, so I will begin. Mr. Ford asked that I start with the board. So we have Larry Ford, he's our president. We have Rick Snuffer on the end, he's our vice president. Then we have Miss Hamrick, Marie Hamrick. I don't think she's a stranger to this school. Marcia Smith and Dr. Charlotte Hutchins. Those are our board members. Seated behind you, I'll do this quickly. Amy Samako, Director of Human Resources. Kim Lacey, Director of Attendance, and Mary McClung, Director of Federal Programs. Table behind them, Penny Lowry, Assistant Superintendent of C&I. Michelle Blankenship, Director of Elementary and Early Childhood. Teresa Lewis, Director of Pupil Services. Angie Foster, Director of School Health. The back table, Gary Daniel, Director of Maintenance and Facilities. Mike Wisnett, Director of Purchasing. Tamber Hodges, she's your Director of Secondary Education. In the back, it's Alan Sexton, Director of Special Programs. Sitting in front of him is Charles Fuller, or Chuck Fuller. He's a coordinator of testing, counseling, and homebound. I said testing instead of assessment, so it messed me up. In the back, we have Greg Bekeachin, Director of Transportation, Rachel Pauley, Director of Technology, and then we have two of our wonderful technology department, Jimmy Petrie and BJ Hazelwood. They make sure we're operating well. I left out one person here in the middle is Eric Dillon. He's Assistant Superintendent. I do apologize. And then last but certainly not least is Carla Daniel. If you ever call my office in particular, you're likely going to speak to Carla. She's our executive secretary. She keeps us all going, particularly me. So thank you for being here, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Ford.
Okay. Well, thank you all for coming. If you don't mind, introduce your team, and then we'll hear from you.
Okay, I think. So my name is Mallory Green. I'm the principal. I have Dr. Wood with me. She's our assistant principal. Mr. Jesse Stevens is one of our school counselors. Miss Melina Belcher is one of our team members, a teacher. Miss Lori Cuthbert is one of our parents. Trish Williams is one of our parents. We have Renee Mills. She's a community member and a business partner. And then Mr. Terry Poe is also a community member with us. Go ahead. Okay, so what we passed out was kind of the data that we've been working on for the last year. The single sheet that I gave you, the reason it's single, we just finished it today. And I didn't have it in my packet, but we've been working on our practice SAT data. We took this on October 3rd, so we're not even a week out. And these were our average scores for our students. So what this graph shows me is when they're coming to us in 9th grade, they are growing every year. They're starting in 9th grade a little bit low, and that's okay. But come 10th grade, they grew 80 points and then another 65 going to juniors. So although they're maybe not proficient or where we want them at the very beginning of the year, they haven't had the yearly instruction, but they are growing as they get to us. We're not plateauing. They are growing as they go every year. So that to me was pretty good data for our very first one. We were pretty excited about that. The packet that I gave you is just some data that we kind of keep track with, like at our school, and the stuff we go over in our LSIC meetings. Our SAT data. So that first chart is average SAT scores for our juniors from last year. Okay, so the year before in 2023, our average was 896, the district was 935, and the state was 910. So you can see we were a good 40 points behind the district year before last. Last year, we closed the gap, and we're only 1 behind the district, and we're 4 above the state average. So to me, that we are closing gaps at Independence to come closer to our district and state goals. We may not be where we want, but we are showing growth, and we are growing in our averages. That bottom one is SAT score by range. So that's basically like a breakdown of what they scored in each range, what percent of kids. What that tells me is that red one is 2 years ago. The blue lines are last year. We had way more kids in the bubble last year than we had the year before. So we have a lot more kids on target to meet that promise because they're only one range behind instead of two. So to me, yes, no, we are not where we want to be. We are not totally proficient. We're not at the promise, but we're making the gains to bump them into that bubble group, okay? So the next page just has our enrollment and showing the growth in enrollment each year, which I love. I'm so thankful for. And then underneath is our discipline referrals. We go over discipline data. Dr. Wood does most of our discipline at the high school. And we go over discipline data almost weekly, but at least every couple weeks, just to see how many DRFs, where are we writing them, that kind of stuff. We noticed when we took over last year that the amount of level ones, you can see, there were 223 DRFs in a level 1 2 years ago. That is way too many. Like, those are piddly things. Level 1s are classroom management problems. They're not deal with the office type stuff. So we feel like in the last 2 years, we have cut that in 1 year down to 95, and then last year only 72 of those little piddly ones. So we are cutting down the disruptions. Those level 1s are more keeping kids from learning in the classroom because it's disruptive behavior, it's skipping, it's tardy, it's that kind of stuff in level 1. And if you have that going on, how can you have instruction? If you have 200 and something, that's almost 2 a day of those kind of disruptions. So we've cut them down to maybe 1 every other day. So we've still got more to go, but we're excited about that data too. Our next one is our attendance data. So in 21-22, this is all of Zoom. I mean, you can get to it, but I just want to break it down for you. In 21-22, we were 88.9% in attendance. 22-23, 90.5. Last year, 91.8. So we have grown the last 2 years in our attendance rate. We're above 90%. So that's thankful. I'm thankful for that. And our graduation rate, underneath there, we were 81 2 years ago, 87 the year before, and this last year with Dr. Wood and I, we were 90.5. So our graduation rate has grown, and I attest a lot of that to Mr. Poe. And I know he's very humble, and he doesn't like to hear that, but he really works hard with our graduation students, and you can tell the data's there. So our school digger ranking, 58 out of 112 is obviously not where we want to be, but we haven't been there since 2010. So this is the highest ranking we have had since 2010. I'm very proud of that. In 2021, we were 102 out of 112. So in just 3 years, we are back up to 58. Our highest ranking was in 2009 at 51. So our goal is to beat that. We want to have the highest ranking. We don't want it to be in 2009. We want it to be now. So that's why I added that in there, because that's kind of our goal for ourselves, is like, we don't want 2009 to beat us. We're trying to beat them now. And then the bottom one is basically just some strategies that we've implemented the last year that I want to, this is what we've done to make these gains. So we've implemented the Indy cards, which is the PBIS. Okay, we started that last January. It is very successful. I don't know if you all want to speak to it, Melina. I mean, the kids love getting the Indy cards, don't they? Like, they get so excited. So that has been a very good positive reinforcement thing that we're excited about. The practice SAT data that we went over at the beginning, we started last year doing this, and I think that has a lot to do with our gains. I really do, just breaking down this data. When we actually break down the full data, it has which teacher has which kid, and what they scored and what they can do for each child. So like if Chad Perkins, we give him a list of his students, exactly what they scored and exactly what they need, and we hand it to the teacher. They don't have to break it down. We break it down for them. We tell them what to teach them individually. So there is no excuse for our teachers anymore. They have the data. They have the information they need. So I attest a lot of that to the practice SAT. We updated our entire daily schedule. We have a 30-minute links every single day, but we have a schedule within our link schedule. So Mondays and Wednesdays, every week, we have MTSS with our links teachers. So our links teachers are to check with every student one by one in their links and check their attendance and their grades. Are you coming to school, and what are your grades like? If they're not where we want them to be, they document it, they send it to us, and then we meet with them, and then we have a meeting about their grades, their attendance, and then we move on from there. So they have another level there with their teacher before they even get to us with that conversation about what's going on, attendance and grades. So we do that every Monday and Wednesday in every single links class. Tuesday and Thursday, we do SAT prep in links class. Every single kid, 9 through 11. The teachers, now that they have the practice SAT, they log them onto Khan. The Khan Academy makes their individualized lessons based on their practice SAT scores. So it's giving them the lessons kind of like Alex or iReady type thing. But we use it as our SAT prep. So Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 through 11, they're getting SAT prep. Some of our teachers who are a little stronger in the SAT prep stuff, they actually pull out a con and do a little more instruction during that time. But our teachers who maybe don't feel so comfortable in English and math because they're not English and math teachers, they have that con to still get that push. And then Fridays we use kind of like fun. That's our club day. That's when they meet for student council. That's when they meet for beta. That's when they meet for all that stuff during their links. So if they work hard for me Monday through Thursday, on Friday they get their 30-minute club time and all that. We added physics to our course requests for juniors because that is another math, basically, in science. Mr. Urick, he's so smart, he passed his physics praxis without ever having the degree. So we are thankful for him coming to Independence and passing that physics. We got to offer physics this year. So now our juniors not only have the opportunity to take Algebra 2, now they can have Algebra 2 and physics and get that extra bump in math, which is where we're the lowest. So we added that course request to juniors because we wanted them to have that little extra bump. And then we expanded our dual credit offerings to our students, and we do one-on-one, Mr. Stevens and our school counselor do one-on-one meetings with our juniors. Last year, because it was like, well, my first year, I used ASVAB scores because I gave all the juniors the ASVAB, and it gave us math and English data, and we met with every kid one-on-one, went over those scores, that kind of stuff. What could they do with them? What did it mean? This year, we're doing the practice SAT data. We didn't have it last year. We were kind of just dabbling into that. So we did ASVAB scores, but this year we're meeting one-on-one with their practice SAT test. So we can go over with them, what does this mean? How close are you? You know, are you 2 questions from this, or are you 20 questions? Where do we need to get you? So those one-on-one meetings, and then Dr. Starcher, we were talking to her about that. She gave us an idea about maybe calling the parent on that meeting. So we're actually going to try that and see how many parents we can get a hold of. And as we talk to the junior, have them in the office, call their parent, talk about how they did on the practice SAT, what we're doing to help them, and what maybe they can do to help us. So those are our big things that we're working on and proud of and working towards. So I just wanted to share that with you. Do you have any questions about any of that? Okay, so INDY stands for I is integrity, N is nice, D is dependable, and Y is you are Cole Camp Tough. So a kid can get a card for any of those reasons. Do they show good integrity? Are they being nice to someone? Have they been dependable? Are they coming every day with their Chromebook charged? Or is this a kid maybe didn't bring their Chromebook before, now they're bringing it every day? You are Cole Camp Tough is kind of broad. We've caught you doing something good that we just really like. And so the teachers, custodians, cooks, me, Dr. Wood, anybody, any adult in the building can give a kid an Indy card. They bring it to one of us in the office, and they get a special, sorry if Teresa Baker's in here, they get a special snack out of the office snack drawers that maybe they wouldn't get in a normal vending machine. And they seem to really like that, extra snacks. They seem to really like the extra snacks, and we pay for that out of our own general fund for the kids and all that, and we do, you know, we take care of that. But they really like that. So they do. They get to bring it anytime. They can hold it. And then we do a weekly drawing for teachers. So because we wanted the teachers to implement, on Thursdays, Dr. Wood draws a card out and picks whatever teacher wrote that Indy card, they get an extra, they don't have links on Friday. So they get an extra 30-minute lunch. So if you're implementing these Indy cards, the teachers now have an incentive to use them because they're getting incentivized for using them. And then the kids, we have big prizes every 9 weeks. We draw a card out, and then they may get what last year we gave Ace Adventure, family passes, Expressway gave us a bunch of stuff to give out. They always do. Chick-fil-A cards. We did Sheets cards. Like, we just draw out these kids just randomly and just basically just give them cool stuff that they like to be good. So that's how we do our Indy cards. Yeah. Any other questions? What's going on? Our concerns? Well, we're still losing instructional time going to the bathroom between classes because we just don't have enough bathroom stalls. We have 8 stalls for 300 girls. And when you let them all out and you only have 3 minutes in between classes, how many kids can actually go to the bathroom in 3 minutes? If I extend that, then I'm out of code with my instructional time. So I'm limited. So we compensate by not really punishing the kids for being tardy. I mean, they're in line. I'm not going to punish them for going to the bathroom, but in the same time, they're missing instruction. I mean, they're, because they're waiting in line to go to the bathroom. So that's been an issue with us that I've noticed in the last couple, and it's the #1 complaint I get from kids. The #1 complaint I get from kids is waiting in line to go to the bathroom. They just hate having to stay. I mean, they stay in there forever, and then they're trying to get their stuff, and it's kind of stressful for some of them who don't want to be late to class. So that's one of our major, and that's a major concern for sure. I don't even know what else we wrote on there. What we got? I've got it right here. That's my major one, I know. And that, the only other thing that, let's see. Oh, I did want to brag on my agriculture class. They're really trying hard and doing good. They really are. You all gave us that extra person, that extra CTE person. This is our 2nd year running it. The kids really like it. Like, I'm really appreciative of that ag class. I didn't get to brag on that. Yeah, we'll have 4 completers after just 2 years. So we are excited about that. Oh, yep, that's my concern. Just bathrooms. Do you guys have anything else that we talked about? I know, like, our sound system in the gym, we use speakers like that. It's kind of rough in there. I think Marie was at one of our ball games. Remember this? Remember? I was so embarrassed, and I'm like, that's all we have. Like, I don't know. It's all we have. Remember? She was like, I can't hear anything. I was like, I know. I hate it so bad. But that's not real. I mean, we don't need that for instruction. We don't need that for school. That's just like we want. It would be nice if, we had a sound system. It would be nice, but I mean, I understand that's not for instruction, but that was one thing that we don't have. We are thankful for the new theater doors, though, and the new walls, because it looks so beautiful now. It's open. It's so pretty. The walls are expanded. We don't have the doors up yet because I think they're coming this month, they said, soon. But, oh, it just looks just so much better with those ugly royal blue doors that were broken. They're gone. It's just so much better. So I wanted to thank you guys for that. It's so much prettier. They think she's the coolest thing since sliced bread now.
Any other questions? I thank you for your excitement, and I'm sure your excitement excites the teachers as well. Yeah, yeah.
Do you have, I
Thank
mean, we talked about this last year, and I'll hear the same thing on your sister's school all the time too, from my granddaughter, about bathrooms. I mean, I don't know. It's something we'd have to look architecturally. It's just going to be it's a big thing. I don't, besides putting a bunch of porta johns out back, it'd be like a W football game. We'll just put a bunch of porta johns out there and y'all can get in line. But it's tough. It's going to be tough to do that because it's such a major infrastructural thing with plumbing and waste and stuff. But that's something maybe we can look at, and facilities can look at and see if there's any kind of a solution.
Well, I will say that I experienced this with my own child, but some kids don't even want to stay in the line because they don't want to splash. There's times my daughter comes home and she opens the back of my bag. So that's unhealthy and not good for the kids anyway.
Yeah,
So.
they just want to like those. Her kids are like our top, top performing kids. They do not want to be one section. Some of them actually, can we use the faculty bathroom in the office? And I let them. Yeah. I just let them. Now I don't let them go in the loft ones down the hall because those are private for faculty. But the ones I can monitor in the office, we just let them, and we try to help that way.
Well, thank you all.
Thank you. Appreciate it. We need it for Westside. She's gonna have more presents. Yeah. What cord is that?
She didn't use it anyway. She was like this the whole time.
Just lay it down. Hold it. I'm ready if you're ready.
Okay, well, welcome again. In just a moment, we'll have Miss Landy introduce her LSIC, but as we get started, Mr. Ford's asked me to introduce everyone else in the room. So we're going to start with Mr. Ford, Larry Ford. He's our board president. And then down on the end, we have Rick Snuffer, our vice president, Marie Hamrick, member Marcia Smith, and Dr. Hutchins. So this is our board, and we're very happy to be here. I'm Serena Starcher, if I've not met you. I'm superintendent. In the back, starting at this first table, we have Amy Samanko. She's our director of human resources. Kim Lacey next to her, director of attendance. And then Mary McClung, director of federal programs. Ridgeview is a Title I school, so Miss Landy works closely with Miss McClung. Penny Lowry is our Assistant Superintendent of CNI. Michelle Blankenship, she's your Director of Elementary and Early Childhood. Teresa Lewis, Director of Pupil Services. And then in the purple we have Angie Foster, Director of School Health. In the very back, Gary Daniel, Director of Facilities and Maintenance. Next to him is Mike Wisnett, Director of Purchasing. And then Tamber Hodges is our Director of Secondary Ed. In the very back, we have Alan Sexton, Director of Special Programs. In front of him, Chuck Fuller. I keep saying Charles for some reason tonight. I'm sorry. Chuck Fuller, he's our Coordinator of Assessment, Counseling, and Homebound. In the very back with the crutch, we have Greg Vakejan, Director of Transportation. Rachel Pauley is our Director of Technology. And then we have these two great guys here, BJ Hazelwood and Jimmy Petrie. They are from our Technology Department. Here in the center table is Eric Dillon. He's our Assistant Superintendent. And then in the very back standing is Carla Daniel. She is our Executive Secretary at the board office. She keeps us all moving in the right direction, particularly me. And couldn't do it without her. So glad to have everyone here tonight. And now it would be Miss Landy to introduce your LSIC.
Okay. Thank you, President Ford, Superintendent Starcher, and esteemed board members. My name is Nancy Harless Landy, Principal at Ridgeview, and let me introduce who I have here with me today. We have somebody that joined us because we were a little short on our members. We do have a basketball game going on tonight at Hollywood. So, you know, if you count my granddaughter, we do have a quorum. Okay. So, Melody Mitchum and her son Jackson Mitchum, who is a third grade student at Ridgeview, Kimberly Sexton, Jonathan Cruz and Madison Harless, both at-large members, and June Daniels, who is a future Timberwolf in training, okay, and her little farm animals. And then, I can't think without things in front of me, Carrie Maynard. Sorry. Yes. But she's not on my official list. But she was in the back, so she came up to represent Ridgeview. She's a wonderful person. Has wonderful kids, too. Ridgeview's performance measures on the WVGSA were as follows. For math, we had 48% of our students proficient. Reading, we had 49% of our students proficient. And for science, we had 43 of our students proficient. Our major concern this school year is the fact that we have 5 vacancies with long-term subs teaching our classes. So keep in mind that these teachers aren't certified. And another major concern for this school year is our test scores. We want to improve those scores. Our strategic plan goals for ELA math are to improve scores. I think this might be going out. By 10% on our iReady diagnostics from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. And that should have an impact on our WVGSA scores as well. There's really no way we can correct the fact that we have vacancies. But the county is having training for long-term subs, I think, this Saturday. I also have strong grade level teachers that will take them under their wing during common plannings and, you know, keep them in track. We have many action steps to complete in order to reach our goals of improving our ELA and math scores through our strategic plan. Things that the Board of Education can do to help Ridgeview to provide a high-quality education for our students. With our curriculum, we are still waiting on reading textbooks to come in a very vital grade level, first grade. I would like to see maybe the county try to purchase a surplus of textbooks so that we don't have to wait so long on textbooks. We are currently copying hardback readers for our students in first grade. For staff development, the county is providing good staff development for our math mats and iReady Math. We are really enjoying having Leanne Chesley come to our school every other Monday. Our teachers feel really satisfied with what the county is providing right now. With personnel, I would love to have a year without vacancies, but I don't see a way around this. The cutting of teachers has really hurt the morale of our school a great deal. Our staff, for facilities, our staff, students, and parents would like to see our walking track paved for our students. It's currently gravel, and it's very hard to walk on the gravel. Like, they twist ankles and things, so that's just a consideration you might want to consider. Ridgeview's biggest accomplishment so far for this school year is the implementation of a social emotional PBIS program called Character Strong. This has an MTSS tier component with it that is really helping some students. We have also implemented Power School for PBIS, which is a way to track reward points and reward our students for their good behavior. Hopefully we will see a big turnaround in classroom management and in turn overall school proficiency with their behavior. We appreciate all the Board of Education does for Ridgeview. We appreciate how much you appreciate our campus. We have won the Most Beautiful Campus Award 4 times in a row. I really feel that we do have such a beautiful campus. Right now we have a long-term substitute cutting our grass, and he's taking such pride in that. I told him today, I said, "You've really got our grass looking good." And he said, "Thank you." He said, "It's a lot of grass." We are so appreciative to have Access Health with the addition of our school clinic. Shasta Acres has been so fantastic to work with. This has been a great help to our students that have a lack of medical attention, you know, from parents. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention our enrollment. Ridgeview's enrollment is up to 456 as of today. We are waiting for schools to drop the 4 new students that we have enrolled in the last 2 days, but our numbers are really climbing. So I just thought I would throw that out there for you. We have had a couple come back. We've had a couple that are going to homeschool. We haven't, it's just hit or miss with that. You don't see that much with elementary, the virtual. So, not in our school anyway, but homeschool, yes.
I guess the question I had, it's not for you. It's one of your concerns there, Dr. Starcher. With the drop of enrollment, how are we short of textbooks? I don't understand how we're short of textbooks.
Not a drop in enrollment. We have had.
No, you did. It's county-wide. We have had a drop. We should have textbooks somewhere in this county for you. I don't know how we don't have.
Well,
them.
I know that Miss Blankenship has been going to the supply house and sending like 3rd grade textbooks, but in 1st grade there must not be a surplus.
Asking if she can speak.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. So we have an increase in our enrollment in 1st grade this year of what we projected. Okay, that's not what I was aware. Okay. Okay, because it's closely to the middle of October and we don't have textbooks. That doesn't not a good look. Yeah, I understand. I understand, but I'm just saying, we need to get those. Did we have pre-enrollment for first grade? Do we kind of know what's coming in first grade? So somewhere we had a bunch of kids that weren't in kindergarten that showed up then.
We've had a lot of enrollments from other counties, other schools.
Okay. Well, we'll take them. No problem with that. I mean,
Right.
that's
We're up to like over 22. 5 vacancies. Well, as of this week, we have 6 vacancies, but I have a brand new teacher starting Monday, so I didn't count her. Brand new, never taught. So be thinking of her on Monday. And she's starting in a class of 28. I told her when I hired her, I said, please go home and study classroom management techniques. No, she did not just graduate, but she's very brand new, and I mean, she just has never subbed, never signed a contract. I think she graduated in 2023, if I'm correct. 2023. Yes, I will be getting complaints.
Yeah.
Trust me, I've already been getting complaints from the teachers at that grade level. No, it's not my fault. But I have very broad shoulders.
Is this young man here, is he a student at your school?
Yes, he is.
What's your name, son? All right, Jackson. What's your favorite part about Ridgeview Elementary? And they don't get to count recess, okay? That doesn't count. What's your favorite part? You knew there was going to be a test tonight, did you? Favorite thing about school? What's your favorite thing? That's great. What's the one thing, if you could change one thing at Ridgeview to make it a better school, you were setting up in principal, you could change it, what would you change? You don't know? Think about that one. We take your input seriously, okay? Thank you for coming tonight, okay? Appreciate you.
Anybody else have any questions? Ms. Smith?
Miss Landy, your attendance your enrollment 456. Last year, were you over the 450 as well?
Yes, ma'am.
So you are at that magic number.
Yes, I am.
Any other questions? Y'all have any questions? Thank you for coming.
Mr. Ford. Mr. Ford. Mr. Ford, if you could come back up here, please.
We have a special presentation. Mr. Dillon has a special presentation.
As Miss Harless stated tonight, she is reigning 4-time Beautiful Campus Award winner. And she does a marvelous job in her building and outside of her building. Her folks, through her leadership. This year you did still win a place, just not first place. But you're still doing a good job. You know what you've inspired other people to rise up. Well, that I credit this year's winner to you because you motivated them. But this year, Ridgeview in the elementary division, now 17 schools received third place for most beautiful campus.
We'll get that tree and you'll win first, Nan.
Okay, thank you all for coming. So welcome, Independence Middle School.
Well, good evening, and let me say before we start, thank you for hosting the this evening's meeting. We appreciate it, and we've enjoyed being here. So, Mr. Ford asked that I introduce everyone at the head table and in the back, and then we'll turn it over to Mr. Houchin. So, first, this is Larry Ford. He is our board president, and then on the end we have Rick Snuffer. He's our vice president. Then we have Marie Hamrick. No stranger. I know she had to work with some of you, I know. Then we have Marcia Smith and Dr. Charlotte Hutchins. This is our 5-member board. I'm Serena Starcher, superintendent. So again, thank you for having us here. It's been a pleasure. In the back, we have several people from our district office. I'm going to start over here to your left. Amy Simonko is our director of human resources. Kim Lacey, director of attendance, and Mary McClung, director of federal programs. And then at the back table, Penny Lowry. She's one of our 2 assistant superintendents. She oversees curriculum and instruction. Michelle Blankenship, director of elementary and early childhood education. Teresa Lewis, director of pupil services. And there in the purple is Angie Foster, director of school health. Very back table is Gary Daniel, director of facilities and maintenance. Mike Wisnett, director of purchasing. And Tamber Hodges, she's your director of secondary education. In the very back, we have Alan Sexton, Director of Special Programs. Chuck Fuller in front of him. He's our coordinator of counseling, assessment, and homebound. Over here, we have Rachel Pauley. She's our Director of Technology. Then we have 2 great guys from her department, BJ Hazelwood and Jimmy Petrie. They are making sure we do everything correctly with technology. Coming in the door is Greg Bekejan. He's our Director of Transportation. Here in the center is the other assistant superintendent, that is Eric Dillon. So he's there by himself. And then standing in the back is none other than Carla Daniel. She's the executive secretary at the board office. She keeps us all straight, including myself. So she does a tremendous job, and we appreciate her being here. So that is all of our staff that's here tonight, and we'd like to turn it over to Mr. Houchins for him to introduce his LSIC. Thank you.
Okay, on this end, starting from over here, we have Chris Weaver, who is a bus operator. And then we have Carrie Maynard, parent, and Cassandra Hagan, parent. We have Samantha Gordon, assistant principal, of course myself. And we have Melissa Gravely, who is a teacher. Jennifer Holly, teacher. Jordan Dunlap, who is a classroom aide. We have Lisa Robinson, who is our community member from New River Health. We have our student, KJ Byers, and we have parent, Amber Byers. You want to introduce them? So, in looking at our data from last year, that's the very first section that was on our executive summary. We had our overall last year math was at 39%, and that was up 4% from the year before in 2023, which we had 35%. Our reading last year was at 55%, and that was up 3% from 2023, in which we were at 52%. And then our science had dropped 9% from 30 in 2023 to 21% in 2024. So, and looking at that as far as our major concerns for the 2024-25 school year, the biggest thing that we were looking at when we looked at data, if you look at the math scores, we were at 39%. However, our math scores were much lower than that in the 8th grade. So our 7th and 6th grade last year performed at a much higher level than what our 8th grade students did. So that's, our concern coming in this year is looking at that to see, is that something that we need to fix within that 8th grade, or was that those students that, would no longer be there, that would have moved on up to the 9th grade. And then whenever we were looking at that is then how do we use our new textbook adoption and brand new resources that these teachers are now using that they haven't been using in the past, and how do we align that with the goals that we have that we've set forth for our 8th grade in particular, looking at that 8th grade. If I had to pick a second one, it would have been the science. Whenever you have a drop like that and you're only at 21%, we really want to look and see what we need to do to get that science up. As a school, I know, and maybe even as a district too, we've really prioritized math and ELA as far as the amount of time that the students have in class, and also the amount of resources that we have as far as we put in as far as benchmarking and that sort of thing in the ELA and math. But certainly we want to see how we can still do that and still put that emphasis on the math and ELA, but without neglecting our science and social studies, and really all of them. But we are measured on the science as far as the statewide assessment. So that was our major concern as far as our plan to correct and address that major concern for the 2024-25 school year. It really starts with planning as far as how we're looking at what we're going to do with those math, and I would say all math, but we did target the 8th grade just as that major concern, but it is at all levels, especially with the new curriculum and how we're making that align with what we're doing in the classroom. So it starts with the planning. So we've changed a little bit as far as how they were planning with that, and really looking at where they were deficient within certain areas in their data. So whenever we do that and we start looking at, okay, now what do we need to do to try to fill in those gaps? So it's not just looking at a number. No, not just saying, okay, we're at 39, but going in and seeing exactly where it is that those deficiencies lie, rather than just, you know, that overall number of what a 39 was. And we've already increased a lot of our walkthroughs. Me and Ms. Gordon have it's increased the number of times that we're going into the classrooms and really looking at that to see and to make sure that those plans, once we have them developed, are being followed once we get into the class. And increase in the data analysis, which is drilled down to specific standards from last year. And then also looking then, so that was kind of at the beginning of the year planning. And then now that we have new diagnostic data that we have just looked at and finished up at the end of September, so now we can start to compare that with this year's students. So it's first of all looking at where we were last year, maybe where we were weak, where we were strong, what we need to work on. And then how do we apply that now to this new data that we're getting from these students? So that's what we're doing to hopefully correct that. The next area was identify what the board could do to try to assist this with this. One thing I was looking at was with the curriculum and what we're doing with the science. Because like I said, so much has been pushed into the ELA and math. So then how can we still add to the science without taking away from those others? I know whenever you start looking at resources, you know, sometimes you got to pick and choose. But to add more in with those science curriculum as far as what we can do as far as with additional labs and that sort of thing that can really help the kids understand that the science textbook that they have, you know, it has some of that materials in it that they need, but I think there's room to have a lot more supplemental materials that we're going to really need to try to get in to increase that math. For staff development, one of the things that we talked about in our meeting, you know, we hear about scaffolding a lot. We hear about how we need to try to bridge these gaps. Whenever you look at math, especially if you're teaching 8th grade math students on a 5th grade level, how do we still continue to deliver content area curriculum whenever there's those extreme gaps that work there? So I was thinking what we would need was real detailed, not just, okay, we need to scaffold and what the scaffold is, but to really detailed on what that looks like. So, I mean, I would like to have, you know, people that can show us, okay, this is an 8th grade classroom. This is the 8th grade content that you're supposed to be teaching to an 8th grade student. So now I got a kid that's on a 5th grade level. How do I make sure that that kid can get what he needs or she needs, but to, even though there's that gap that they may only be on a 5th grade level, even though they're having to take 8th grade math. So that's where we really, really need to work, is how do we address those kids that are behind and they need to be caught up, but we're still trying to deliver grade level work to them as well and grade level assignments. Last year they were, the group of students that we had last year in the 6th and 7th grade, those scores were much, much higher than what our 8th graders were last year. But, you know, how you're comparing that, because you're looking at a group of students, it may have been, that could have been what it was, you know, that those 6th and 7th grade students just performed, you know, at that level. So that's what we really have to look in and see. That's why I said I really wanted to look at these 8th grade. Okay, I think I'm back. I was hearing muffled in my ear, so I thought maybe it went off. So that's what we're really trying to see. That's why I wanted to look. Was to look at that from the start to see. Can you hear me now? Okay. With how we're planning in that, and then going into those classrooms and seeing and making sure that if the 8th graders are doing a lot of the same things that 6th and 7th grade teachers are doing, and we're seeing that those classrooms are being run just as efficiently and that they're still providing that, You know, so that's kind of what we're looking at whenever we're going to go through do our walkthroughs, is to make sure that we are following those lesson designs that we talk about. So, but yes, to answer your question, the 8th grade was much lower. I don't have that off the top of my head, but that was at 39. 6th was in around 45, and 7th grade was around 55%, I think, as far as the math scores last year. And the 8th grade was at 21, so it was a large drop off into that grade. The next section was the personnel. What we talked about was a full-time resource officer. I mean, I know that a lot of people probably ask for that, but there is a big concern, you know, for many schools. But you know, it certainly would be great if we're ever able to figure out how to do that. To have the resource officer here. Also, the full-time finance secretary. This is, you know, our finance secretary is running finance for 2 different schools. I know that, you know, the situation that does go on as far as, you know, evaluating how much service personnel we can have, but the amount of, I mean, coming in one day, and sometimes, you know, 2 ball games and fundraiser that came in, and really by the time she gets from Trap Hill, has her lunch, travels, you know, 25 or so minutes, and by the time she gets here, she may only have 2.5 hours or so even of being here in this building, trying to manage all of the finances for that. So that's and then the last thing that I would mention would be to keep. I'm not asking for more, but you know, as you know, we talked about, we had to add some special ed teachers to our school this year. We do not see that situation changing any as we move into the future. So I would hope, and I would ask that we would at least be able to keep what we have, because then I know when I'm planning next year's, you know, schedules and things, and I'm trying to so I'm not having to move kids and move schedules once the school year starts. So if we have it from the beginning, then we know how to plan. But you know, we certainly don't see our situation changing as far as our special ed numbers and population goes. As far as facilities, we had identified, you know, the front entrance area as far as having a man trap there at the front, and then an enclosed area for the resource officer, essentially just like the high school. So whenever you go to the high school, the way they have everything enclosed in there, with having a place for the resource officer, and then that man trap to enter the building. That's what we identified as a major issue. And I know this is kind of a wish list, but you know, if you look at our bleachers, they're very dated. There's areas that are sections are missing. So if we could look at some point down the line, looking at replacing those bleachers in there. An awning, you know, for the parent drop off and pickup. Okay, got me? All right. So the awning for our parent drop-off, we have, I mean, the way this place is designed, and there's only one entrance and one exit from this parking lot. We don't have a separate parent drop-off, parent pickup that we can do. So we have to go all the way to the other end of the building. From where they're at. So it's a long walk. There's no exit out that end of the building, out there where the big rock is. That's where our parent drop-off, parent pickup is. So they're walking from essentially the middle of the school all the way to where the rock is in order to leave. So so obviously if it's inclement weather and those sorts of things, and you know, that can pose a problem. We did. Okay, I'm sorry. So the next thing I wanted to mention as far as facilities, we're very grateful for you know, what was done over the summer that we mentioned last year in our LSIC meetings, and so The new paint that's coming for the gym hasn't occurred yet, but we know that it's coming. The paint in the bathroom, they really, we really do appreciate the things that were done. The new lighting, I could tell once it started getting darker in the mornings and I'm out there looking, I'm like, this looks a lot brighter than what it did last year. So I was asking Mr. Daniels, I was like, that's new lighting in it, it's got to be. So it was. There is one little section right there whenever we drop off. If we could add just a little bit there, that would be great. I think that would make it. But right at the corner where we drop off, there's not much right there where the kids are getting out of their cars and things. That was it as far as our facilities go. So accomplishments from last year. This is where I did break it down for a specific grade, and we did recognize our 7th graders from last year, our 8th graders from this year, part of KJ's group. Last year they were 66% proficient overall in ELA, 52 for math. So that was a super job for that whole entire group. We felt like certainly compared to where we have been and comparing it to some of those things. So we're very, very proud of that group, what they were able to accomplish last year. Our sports programs last year, we were county champions, football, boys basketball, and wrestling. We had Graydon Smith, who was the first all-state band member from Independence Middle School, so we're very proud of him and his accomplishments for that. And Owen James and Alana Trump were Golden Horseshoe winners. So the last thing that I wanted to mention as far as any additional things, I want to talk about definitely have to give some props to Ms. Gordon here. Our PBIS system is really, really taken off this year. I feel like we've done some really great things. We're still early on. We know that. We haven't even hardly scratched the surface on where we want to go. But just to point out, some of the differences that can make. At this point in time last year, well, when I made this report a week ago, we were at 50 DRFs last year. We were 28 right now. I looked again just to make sure that hadn't changed any, and so I looked at it today. And a week later, we're still at 28. So I was definitely pleased about that. I know we've had a couple of things that happen that do come up. But overall, when we look at kind of where we're at and where we're going with our PBI system, I really do feel like we've done a good job as far as getting that done. And I think the data will already show, and I think it will continue to show, the grounds we're making as far as getting the overall discipline for our school. So, do you all have any questions for us?
Only question I had here was, or just a comment maybe, about your science scores as low as they were there. And I that's maybe just other people too, not you. But how we need to, they call it cross curriculum or whatever. But, when I was in high school, if you gave me Shakespeare and whatever else to read, it would not got read. I'd have got the Cliff Notes and I'd have put my report in, okay? However, if you give me a biology book that talked about all the different science and stuff in there, I probably read that, knew the experiment, and I can tell you what all I did about it. So sometimes we need to change our reading a little bit, have those kids, and they're learning science whether they know it or not. They're reading that kind of text and stuff. And a lot of these kids are interested in science and interested in those kind of things. So maybe we just need to challenge a little bit with different reading assignments. There's nothing wrong with the literature, the classics. I'm not going to say there is. As I've got older, I've got a little more classic, but not much. But I'm still a farm boy. But, there is a lot to be said about reading the curriculum you like.
It's 8th grade only.
8th grade. So, that's the thing on that. The full-time resource officer, I think that's a goal for us, all middle schools, high schools, all the way up. We have it in high schools. We'd love to have that in all the middle schools. It's just something we need to work for and do it. I think the legislature's looking at it too, so hopefully we can get that thing. I think it's a very important resource for us to have. And the last thing I would have, and I may get it wrong, is it KJ? Okay. KJ, you didn't know there was going to be a test tonight, did you? You study? Okay, you better be careful here. That'll be put on your report card next time. Now, what's the thing that you like best about Indy Middle? What do you think is the best thing that occurs at Indy Middle on a daily basis as you as a student? Okay, you brown nose now. Okay, you got that one right. Okay, now, what's the one thing that you would change if you really wanted to change? You say this, you know, if I was a principal or I was superintendent today at Indy Middle, I would change this one thing. I think it'd make it better for everybody. You have that power here for the next few minutes. Not just going to happen, but you have that power. What would you do? Think about it. Think about it. If you come up with something, let me know, okay? I mean, we take student input. The superintendent meets with students. We take your input because you're out there every day. You see stuff sometimes that we don't even think about. You know, we think everything's going fine, and the students say, you know, what about this? And we're like, well, I never even knew that was a problem. But you do, okay? So we're willing to take your input on that. Think about it a little bit. Tell your principal. If it's something about him, tell somebody else. No, I'm just kidding. But let us know, okay? Thank you. And I know it's tough to be put on the spot like that, but I like doing that, and I like your input and your honesty. The little boy, I was going to tell other board members, the little boy I asked this same question last time was here. He came up after the meeting and told me, he said, I thought of something after you asked me that. He said, I wish my classroom was a lot quieter. It's too noisy and I can't think. Honest answer. He gave me an honest answer, okay? And so there's no wrong answer, okay? There's no wrong answer on those. That's the thing. All right, thank you.
Any other questions? We do thank you all for coming. This meeting is adjourned.